queuing up all day, isn't you, outside the army?
He's joining the PR team.
You know what's
Kenny, you look like an ex-cricketer, mate, with that on.
Oh, you mean Viv? Okay, I don't mind looking like Viv.
Getting in your batting.
Your club Lloyd, you know what I mean? Or
hitting them sixes.
Oh, man.
Club Lloyd used to hit a mean six. But basically what the situation was, after the match, it was absolutely freezing. We got talking. I thought, I nearly tripped over Theo Walcott. He is as skinny as anything. He still looks in good shape to play football. And then I could see Miles Lewis Skelly's mum, waiting to get media area. So that you know that media area, don't you, DG? You know about that, don't you?
Leave me alone, Kenny.
With a smile on your face, thinking no one's going to notice you. I went, hi. Oh God, it's Kenny. See me.
This guy, man. Leave me alone, Kenny, man. This guy, man. Let's start there, lads, man. What's your lot's thoughts in relation to the game before we talk about injuries and address Saka and whatnot? Like, what did you lot make of the game?
Well, I mean, it was kind of a job done, really. Quite impressive. I mean, we done what we had to do, really. I don't think Fulham really came to trouble us much. They lined up with five at the back. I think they tried to frustrate us, which I was quite surprised with Fulham, really, because I don't understand why a lot of teams do that now, especially while they're, challenging for European places and knowing that we haven't got an out-and-out striker. I find it a bit strange that they line up like it, to be honest, and don't really take the game to us. But they had a couple of chances, and if they'd have converted them, it might have been a different story. I thought the first half was a bit flat. It was very flat in the stadium as well. It was a kind of end of season, nothing on it kind of atmosphere, really, in the first half. Second half, we upped the tempo, looked a lot better. I was really pleased to see Martinelli back to his old self. I thought the international break probably done him a bit of good. And he came back and he was looking like the Martinelli that we all want to see going forward. He looked really good. It's his best game he's had for a very, very long while.
Very long time.
Yeah, you got to give Moreno credit. I mean, he takes a little bit of a stick. He's not everyone's cup of tea, but he's been asked to do a job. It's not his natural positions, and looking at his stats, you can't really knock him. He's putting the goals in. He had an hand in the second goal. He looked mobile. Okay, his goal took a bit of a deflection, but again,
I reckon that's his best game in an Arsenal shirt, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think he looked okay. I think he looked all right. And again, going forward, perhaps if we sign the right players, he could be a good addition to come off the bench and give us something different. And then when Saka came on, obviously that lifted the crowd. It got the crowd up. Whether we think he's fit enough, whether we think it's right, whether we think it's wrong, whether we think, at the end of the day, the club's made the decision. In their eyes, they've taken all the right steps to get him on the field of play. So I suppose we have to go along with it and treat it as a positive. Because as much as we can sort of have our own opinions on whether he's fit enough, and I have my own opinions,
I think we all did.
at the end of the day, the club's made a decision. And he came on, got his goal, which is going to give him a bag of confidence going forward. But it's just another one thing after the other, which we'll probably get onto later on. But overall, job done. 2-1. Fulham didn't really fret. There were some good individual performances. I think Skelly again looked really good. I think he's making that left back his own. So yeah. Hopefully, we can just keep plugging away and see what happens, my friend. That's all we can do.
Yeah,
Aaron, Kenny.
Only 9 points to go, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? That's it. Only 9 points left. Look, I think at the end of the day, with that, I think we're all resigned to the fact that we're not going to do anything in the league. But as a winner, we still don't want to see Arsenal perform bad. I'm not saying it was the best performance I've ever seen. But they just got the job done. And to sort of echo what DJB was saying as well, Mourinho is doing a job. You know, is it sustainable? No, it's not going to be sustainable. Will we still need a striker? Do we still want a striker? Yes, of course. But I mean, he's doing an all right job. He's doing his sort of job there, and you know,
doing what he
he's
can.
scoring some. He's scoring some goals. Yeah, you know, I mean, if you'd have said to me, would he have got 5? Is it? He's got 5 or 6, maybe.
5,
I'd have
6 in like
probably
8 games.
yeah.
Quite a good run of form, to be fair.
Yeah, you know, so you've got to give, and we probably as fans don't get the credit for this, but we're happy to give credit where credit's due. You know, fair dues to him. Look, I would have said he'd probably got 2, 3. You know, he's put okay numbers up, so I'm quite happy with that. Of course, going into the Saka thing, I see him try beat his man a couple of times. Look, and it didn't quite come off for him. He's been out for a little while, so that's all going to come back. You know, his goal was sort of poacher-esque sort of finish. Like DJB said again, you know, that will do his confidence a world of good more than sort of anything. You know, it's a little run out for him, a little half hour. Will it be enough for Madrid really for a game of that intensity to start? It's still not soon enough for me. But you know, again, we don't want him. He's going to come back. He's back. We don't want him to get a setback, and he didn't yesterday, as far as we know. So again, you know, it's sort of all good on that front, and keeping with the positive. See, look, we can be positive, everyone. Martinelli, yeah, we can be. Well, you know, when we want Martinelli, yeah, this is the type of performance we have been crying out for him. You know, he was beating his man, and he was making good decisions in the box, and he weren't just making good decisions. He was actually having some final third cutting edge to him. You know, that nice little flick for the goal. That's sort of what we were seeing. You know,
I wish he could stay on side.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, that's sort of what you want, and I just want him to follow that up now, Martinelli. You know, it's a tricky away game at Everton. You know, that's a very difficult place.
Nasty.
But, you know, it is. Yeah, exactly right. And that's going to be a battle, and that's going to be quite interesting as well for Bukayo Saka, because is he going to try? Are they going to try and give him maybe more minutes? Are they going to start him? Are they going to give him maybe a half? And maybe another 30 minutes, sort of, who knows? But that'll be quite an interesting game. But for Martinelli in there, you know, it's all about, right, you've had a good game against Fulham. Now follow it up. Get some momentum into that round, you know, the Real Madrid game, because that's the one, innit, boys? We all know for our season.
So we got to play for.
Exactly right, you know, and I'm just thinking, right, Saka, get yourself a bit of confidence going up to that game now then. You know, Martinelli, get yourself a good bit of rhythm. Beat your man, go into there with a bit of confidence, get another goal maybe, or the winner against Everton, you know. You know, Kivior looks a little bit shaky when you come in. He's not for me. He's not for Arteta really. As soon as he signed him, he's never really fancied him. But I'm sure we'll talk about that. Yeah, exactly right. And you know, I know that's the section we will sort of get into, so I won't say too much on that. But yeah, Miles Lewis-Skelly was looking good. Overall, look, it's a shame we're in a sort of situation where it almost doesn't really matter if we get 3 points, frustratingly, because 5th place is, of course, Champions League still this season, and we're not going to finish 6th. But it's a win, some momentum, some good performances in there, and, you know, we just want to see it carry over to Everton, and then obviously see what overspills to the Real Madrid game, man.
Facts. Kenny, before I ask a question in relation to Saka, what have you got to say on the game?
Well, first and foremost, yeah, you know, it's just as the guys described. The first half was really bad. It was like Chelsea-esque in terms of the way we were playing, the way Fulham started, and the kind of sloppiness in our game. And what a lot of people were talking about was the slow build-up of how we played. And Fulham started off pretty comfortably, and then after 15 minutes, they just went in their shells. And I think it's the way football's played these days. It's not an attractive watch for any football fan.
It's all about systems and all that.
Yeah, it's a system-based game. It was awful to watch. We got a goal, and as I said, credit to Marino, because at the end of the day, he's a player that I'm always going to respect because of the fact that he's not a big name. He gives everything for the club, and he gives his best. He gives his best, and he has improved as time goes on. You know, he's put his hand up. He's scoring goals, which is what you want. In terms of like the second half, I think when we up the tempo a lot more, that's when we started to open Fulham up and started to play a bit better. And obviously, the key moment was obviously in the second half was Martinelli's performance. I thought Martinelli was back to the Martinelli of before. Whether he does that consistently, time will tell.
That's
but at least he's doing Martinelli-esque things, like trying to hit the box, trying to draw defenders, trying to take them on again.
Looking confident above everything.
Yeah, and what he's added to his game is his crossing and final ball was brilliant yesterday, and his assist for the goal, for Saka's goal, was brilliant. Saka watch, obviously, when Saka came on, we're all going to do a Saka watch. We'll talk about that in more depth. But he got his goal, and as everyone says in the stadium, the whole stadium was lifted. It was like it was like a massive improvement in the atmosphere when he was coming on, and I think maybe fans,
even when he was warming up and his name was announced as well. Really,
the biggest disappointment was fans did stay away yesterday. There was tickets to win on general sale. The atmosphere wasn't the greatest. Perhaps we're all saving it up for next Tuesday. The only demerit mark as well defensively is that in the second half of games, Lewis Skelly does go walkies, and he went walkies.
I needed to bring on Tierney for me, man.
Yeah.
Like, you could see he was just young subs.
We know he's not a left back. We know he's filling in, and he does a very good job. In the second half, he does lose concentration. And Fulham had a couple of chances. Obviously, they got their goal in injury time, and they had another chance afterwards again when him and Martinelli went walkies.
And their striker missed the sitter as well.
One thing you have to remember as well, Fulham did have a couple of chances in the second half because we gave the ball away quite a bit. Declan Rice was involved in one, and I know on the right-hand side as well, Timber went walkies, and they got a couple of good chances. But apart from that, we showed we were better than Fulham, and that's why we won ultimately. But there's so many things that we need to discuss going into Madrid, because obviously the bullet point is injury to Gabriel Magalhaes, injury to Timber. These are the bullet points.
White weren't even in the squad.
And obviously, with further depth is what do you do with Saka in a game of this magnitude, and obviously what team do you play at Goodison Park?
I think we got some good talking points, man. Do you not think Martinelli meant it before we move on? I think he did.
Go on. Me personally, I think he's tried to flick it towards goal, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think he's tried to get something on it towards goal, and it's just come off the top of his foot and gone to the far post. But I'm gonna have my football head on here rather than my Arsenal head. I think he got fortunate, and I don't think he meant it personally.
It's DJB. He was having that kind of game where he was playing well. I think even the flicks were going his way. I mean, before the goal, there was a bit of skill where he just absolutely.
Oh, he sat his fullback down.
He sat his fullback down with quick feet, where he sort of bent his toes and bent his foot and deceived his direct opponent. So that might have evolved, but and that's the thing. Unfortunately, we haven't seen it this season. That's why we're still veering towards the side of, if there's a sacrifice to be made, he's the man to be sacrificed.
Do you know what?
Getting paid 180 grand a week.
Yeah, no, DG. Do you know what I was going to say about Martinelli?
Go on.
Are we going to see the old Martinelli for the rest of the season, because he might have got wind that he may be one of the players that could be exiting the club, and these these players tend to kind of go in the shop window.
Yeah.
And it's like Thomas Partey last year of his deal playing out of his skin. You never know, you could. But
this is what I'm
past
trying to say.
You boys remember it when.
So you don't know, do you? It could be.
You remember it when Theo Walcott, he used to always have an absolute belter, and Thomas Rosicky, they'd just go insane, wouldn't they?
It was just
Nene as well. Play out their skin, sign a new deal. You don't really see them again.
I'm thinking that you're going to start turning it on there because you may be one of the players that could be exiting, and we don't, and he's looking for a big move, and rightly so. Hats off to him. If he's got wind that he could be exiting the club, then I wish him all the best. But if he's going to show form like that, obviously I want him to stay.
Have we also allowed him to be a bit? Have we also allowed him to be a bit too comfortable though, with that 180k a week? Because he's probably
1,000,000%.
Wow, yeah, that's it. if we give him 35 to start off with, and he had an unbelievable season under Emery, we doubled it to 70. Then he had an unbelievable, a good season under Mikel Arteta, and we made him on 180 straight after that.
You look at the wages. He's on 180 grand, and like he's gonna have to need a new deal. We're gonna have to make a decision. Do you know what? It's harsh with Martinelli for me because it's hard not to like him. I think his attitude's good. I think he works his socks off. I think he loves the club. I've just emotionally checked out because at the end of the day, like I've just accepted you for what you are. I look at it like, what was it, 2022, 23 when he was playing out of his skin? I find myself saying, is he gonna get back to that, or was that a purple patch? Like, your decision making ain't improved for someone that's played 200 times for our club, 100 odd in the Prem, 24, 25, something like that. Brazil international. I've kind of checked out from it. I hope so, but it's gonna take more than a game against Fulham for me, man. And I love Martinelli. He's one of my favorite players, but in the squad. But I just have to accept him for what he is at the moment, man.
Yeah. No facts. And to go back with Martinelli to what Catch asked, big up, mate. I actually think he didn't mean it either. But do you know what? That's what I want, a bit of improvisation. Do you know what I mean? He's put it into the danger area. Did he mean to get it exactly on Saka's nut? Of course he didn't. But, the ball's whipped in and he's done a bit of improvisation to get that ball into a danger area. Sometimes, and a lot of the time, it don't work. But yesterday it did. Do you know what I mean? And that can be the difference in them games. Just getting something on it and putting it into the right area. He might do that another 20 times and it'll be headed away, or it might go out. You know what I mean? But yesterday it worked, and that's sort of what you want. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, that's what I'm sort of saying as well about Martinelli. You just want to see consistency now, and that's why I said it's one of the first things. Do it against Everton and give yourself a bit of confidence going into that Madrid game, because you'll get space against Real Madrid, especially in that home tie. You'll get a bit of space, and you just want him to do something with it. And I think as well with Martinelli, it's sort of a shame because we know what he can do. We've seen him up front for that Emery season, and he can put goals in there. We've seen him on that one season in the season you mentioned, DG. And it's just frustrating that we haven't seen it since, because you think, wow, they're somewhere there is a really good player bursting to come out, and he just hasn't been able to do it, has he, man?
And that's the annoying thing, man. It's like I got time for him, but it's like, is it a thing where you're a squad player and we sign an upgrade there? Speaking of wingers, though, I do want to speak about Saka. Like, do us four, because we're all in agreement that, you know what, right off the season, blah blah blah. There is an element of rustiness from Saka, but I can't lie. I think he looked a lot sharper than I would have thought. Like, do we just have to hold that L? Like, was we wrong about this? Like, is there no concerns anymore with Bukayo? Exactly, he's never left.
Yeah, I think time will tell. Time will tell, DG. It's early days. He's just come off the bench. He looked fit and raring to go, like the club's been saying. And we've all had our own opinions on whether it's too early and whether we should be rushing him back, whether we should keep him out for the end of the season. We ain't going to know until 3-4 games in. What is a worry is if he does start with Real Madrid, and you've got the likes of Gabriel and Timber missing, especially Timber on that right-hand side, that he shares and occupies a lot of the area with. My biggest worry, whoever slots in now, is that going to give Saka more workload?
100% it is against Real Madrid.
Exactly. So he's going to be given added workload if Timber's not fit, and it doesn't look like Timber's going to be fit. So, that's going to be a worry, because you don't know how he's going to adapt to that kind of right-hand side. And mentally, he's going to think, well, hang on a minute, our usual fullback is out, and he's now having to track back and do double the workload. So that's going to be a worry. The club has got to manage this young guy right. If they think that he's tired, if they see any signs of fatigue with him during a game, even if he comes off the bench, and they see any little chink in his armour, he's got to be hooked. He's got to be taken off, because what you can't do is take risks. Like, for instance, yesterday, I noticed on the post-match with our manager yesterday saying about when they mentioned Timber and his injury, and he said he felt something in the first half, but he carried on. Now, see, this is the problem I have with our manager.
That was just like the ACL injury Timber had.
If he has felt something in the first half, and you've got Real Madrid the following week, he should not have come out for the second half. He should have been on the bench. He should have been on the physio table, rested, not played. But again, he brings him out in the second half. He lets him play pretty much the whole game, knowing in the first half he wasn't right. And this is the problem I've got with our manager when it comes to injuries and Saka and everything. The Gabriel thing didn't really need to play 93 minutes against PSV. Didn't even need to be in the squad. 7-1 up. You know, Gabriel didn't have to play. I was quite surprised he was even playing in that game, to be honest. So there's still question marks how the manager manages these players. There is still question marks. Now, whether he manages them for his own self-esteem and his own recognition, I don't know. But there's some examples. And with the Saka thing, time will tell. But it ain't going to help Saka against Real Madrid if Timber's missing. Because mentally, he's going to think, hang on a minute, I'm going to have to put in an extra shift here. And that coming back from a long injury could be quite worrying. But, you know, we'll have to wait and see. I'm not a medical expert, so as far as I know, he's fit to play. But I can only see from a football side of things, from what I've witnessed in the past, players have broken down. So we'll have to see. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, fair enough. What was I going to ask you? Like, I was having this debate with a friend. Like, obviously, Gabriel Magalhaes is probably going to be out, and Saka's back. Who is actually, in theory, who would be a bigger loss for Real Madrid for you? Like, Gabriel Magalhaes or Saka? Like, granted, we all know it's equal, but I'm very nervous with not having our leader. What I feel with Magalhaes in defence and the prospect of what we'd have to go out there with. I don't know. I'm nervous.
Yeah. I actually think. If you sort of say the current situations, I reckon Gabriel's a bigger loss purely because it affects more than just one player. With Saka already, you know, he's not really up to 100% anyway. You sort of see yesterday, and I don't want to dig Saka out yesterday, but you could absolutely tell that he
could see the rustiness.
You could see that, yeah. He tried beating his man, some bits didn't come off, and sort of what DJB was saying. He wasn't really required to be bombing up and down that right-hand side. You know, it was a nice, easy, comfortable game, really, weren't it, for 30 minutes for him to come into. There was no obligation, really, of defending, you know. He weren't being
nice and that.
Exactly. He weren't being ran from pillar to post, you know what I mean? So yeah, I would definitely be sort of kind of happy with that if I was Real Madrid. Gabriel, I've said it a few times, you know, a lot down the when you look at the history of centre-back partnerships, you always usually have one number one and then a number two sort of centre-back to cover it. Now, Gabriel has been more of one than Saliba has, I think, but when you've got a partnership like that and you have one of them go, it affects your other side of the centre-back, and it also affects the left-back sometimes, you know, because sometimes you just might rely on that excellence from Gabriel.
Got a young Kivior and a young MLS against Real Madrid. That's a big ox.
Exactly my point there, mate. So Saliba's not going to be 100% because he hasn't got his partner, and that is a partnership. Let's get it right. And it's the only real place in the squad that has a partnership, relying on that, you know, a chemistry and that bond. And it's a massive important part of the pitch. Let's get that right. And it's not just that it's a massive important part of the pitch. It's probably Arsenal's best defense and attack against Real Madrid, because look at their front three. You know, we are massively relying on our defense to try and keep them at bay, and then
that's
maybe
one area we've got belief in.
Exactly, this is exactly my point. And you know, having your partner out, you know, it doesn't just destabilize Saliba a little bit. You know, it might, like you quite rightly said, and I was going to get to, the MLS, if he's going to play there. You know, having Gabriel not next to you as a young left-sided 8 playing left back against Real Madrid,
guiding
against
you through the game as well.
Do you see what I mean? Yeah, it's a little bit worrying, and I'm going to allude to a little bit as well to what DJB was saying, because I always sort of say that about PSV, and I said it last night, and I'll say this again as well. 45 minutes left of that PSV game. We were 9-3 up. What's he doing on the field? Why is he playing 90 minutes of that game? Do you know what I mean? Why did Declan Rice play so long? He got a yellow card. If he gets yellow carded to next week, you know, he'll miss the return leg of that. It's about that man management, and it's just frustrating that Mikel, after 5.5 years, just seem to not really grasp that yet. You know, it's frustrating. And
facts.
You know, with the Timber thing as well, I'm not too sure on the length or whatever, the injury on that. I mean, I keep seeing in the chat some people say he might come be back or whatever. I hope so, of course. But you know, it's a time bomb that it's been waiting to happen. You can't just go out with that ACL all season and come back, and he's played virtually every second, boys. Do you know what I mean? I know Ben White being injured ain't sort of helped him. You know, I totally get that, but you should be having a bit of a squad here, you know, to be managing these players. And Timber's just been flogged yet again, and surprise, surprise, he's got injured. It's been waiting to happen, this, and I really, really, really hope, one, it's not bad, and two, he learns from it. He's got to start learning quicker. 5.5 years in the job, boys. I expect him to be learning a lot quicker than this. It's just, it was so bittersweet yesterday because there were so many good moments about yesterday, and then you know, you just sort of see that Gabriel's being taken off, and it's just such a kick in the teeth, you know, boys. Real kick in the teeth that was. I didn't 100% believe we could do it against Real Madrid anyway, and if he is out, and especially both of them, whatever percentage that we had before, I mean, dramatically falls. I'm sorry. It does. Party at right back, maybe. And Kivior at left-sided centre-back against Vinicius Jr. and Rodrigo.
Vinicius,
come on, man. Leave it out. Just leave it out.
We need Benjamin White. Honestly, I know Tini's not coming into the side, so we need Benjamin White because that defense, quality is one thing, leadership's another. I don't want to pile on Kivior, but it's a big ask for you. And I maybe I'm a bit fickle, but the one thing I would say I don't like about Kivior beyond the obvious is I don't like centre backs that don't really have any personality. I think he's too nice, a bit too introverted and things like that. Like, I just think Real Madrid will smell that and it'll be like a sheep going to the slaughter, essentially. I hope I'm wrong, 100%. I hope he has the best game he's had in an Arsenal shirt, but it don't look pretty. And the amount of hamstring injuries, it says it all. We've got a tiny squad. Arteta keeps speaking about 19 players. When you look at our 19, how many are really durable? Because we all know Tierney picks up knocks, Partey typically picks up knocks, Zinni picks up knocks, Calafiori picks up knocks. We've got, as you lot have said, Timber coming back from an ACL. It's a bit of it's very naive, better yet, from our football club, really, if I'm honest with you. Sharon. Kenny, what are you saying? I think you're muted, Kenny.
No, so I put something. I think, you know, if Saka was fully fit and he didn't have this injury, and you said who's a bigger loss, of course it's Saka. But we've got ourselves in a situation where we began to get used to the fact that Saka was probably going to be out for the rest of the season, and we had probably game plans in our minds that didn't involve Bukayo Saka for Real Madrid, home and away. And so if you're last week, if you're picking a team, Real Madrid, it would have been probably the two centre backs, Skelly, Timber, and then you had the midfielder as it is, and you probably would have gone with the front three as it is. And so when he went down injured, I was thinking, oh my God, not him. Out of all the players on the pitch, he's a player I don't want to be injured. And it's not a dig at Saliba, because Saliba clearly is the one with the more, you know, better ability in terms of like world class, better footballing ability. He's definitely better on the ball than Gabriel. But if you want someone to just defend for their lives, it's him. He loves defending. He seems to love defending. As you can see, when he's on the ball, it's like, oh, please, what am I doing on here? Just gives the ball to someone else. You know what I mean? It's not his game. He's probably better at set pieces. So that really, really, really left me stumped. And, you know, obviously, if he goes for a left foot, he's going to go for Kivior. But, you know, you could see a situation where it depends on Ben White. Because when I was in the crowd, I was saying, I saw players line up and I went, where's Ben White? And
I think we all did.
I just rushed the ground, and they said, "Oh, he's off." And then one guy said, "Oh, his missus maybe having a child." And then when I went on my phone, it was because he had a couple of niggles, and you know they wanted to take a few precautions. But if you cast your minds back to the 23-24 season, Gabriel had a fallout with Arteta. He didn't play, and in defence, he had the first game of the season. It was Thomas Partey right back. And in defence, it was Ben White and Saliba together. So that could be the pairing for Real Madrid. But if because that is all dependent on if Timber's fit. If Timber's fit, then you probably say for that game, one game, I know it's harsh on Kivior, you would have said, right, Timber and Saliba, because of their pace and athleticism. All right, it's not going to purely be ideal for Arteta because he likes a left foot, right foot combination, but for actually genuine defending, genuine pace, genuine marking, it's got to be, you'll say those two, and then you have to, say Benjamin White, toss a coin between Benjamin White and Partey, because the reason why I'm saying toss a coin between Benjamin White and Partey is because
now you got to put White in there, man.
We've seen, even if Benjamin White is fit or even semi-fit, for some reason he says, whatever happens, I need my man on the field, be it right back or his right position, number 6. He just seems to be, have this sort of Partey. I need this guy. If he's fully fit, I need this guy on my pitch. It's like, this guy's my brain. This guy helps, can play a variety of positions. And that's why this guy has to play. So don't be surprised if Timber's only got a knock, that you see a back four that includes Pons Partey and not Benjamin White. Benjamin White will just come off the bench and relieve Partey. And then the midfield would be Jorginho.
Against Madrid.
No. Yeah, because in terms of ball retention. And then
I hear that. Just when we have to defend.
Odegaard to do what Odegaard doesn't do, what he should do, which is be creative, and then you'll have a situation where you obviously you'll have Declan Rice having to play at numbers, having to occupy more than number 6. But if you want someone to sort of farm the ball out, you have someone who can retain the ball a lot better and take a ball in half turn, not as good as Partey, Jorginho, and then the front three. It's a big question because it's Real Madrid and because of the fact that Timber's not playing, would you put an unfit? So what I mean, a not 50% fit Saka in that game in that magnitude, knowing full well that if Real Madrid play Champions League Real Madrid, not the Real Madrid of yesterday, or the Real Madrid of La Liga, that just attacks, concedes 3, but they'll score 5, concedes 2, and they'll score 3. That Real Madrid, I promise you, is not going to turn up next Tuesday. That Real Madrid is going to be business-like. That Real Madrid are going to say, you know what, when it comes to
this is our competition.
When it comes to like perfecting that sort of low block and being very difficult to beat and keeping all the players in position, Arsenal are probably the best at doing that. They're probably the hardest team in the Premiership to break down. So we're going to go like for like and tire Arsenal out. And then when we tire Arsenal out, Vinny and Mbappe and Bellingham are going to clean up in the last 15, last 20 minutes. This is how they're going to work it out. And that's where you think, you know what? It's a tight one, because if Real Madrid play like that, you've said, all right, I'll give Saka probably 60 minutes and let's see if we can disrupt their pattern in the first half an hour and go a goal up. And then Real Madrid have to do what Real Madrid like to do, which is play attacking football. It's a hard one, but I'm talking about not just the game next week. I'm talking about the 180 minutes. And when I'm thinking about the 180 minutes, I'm thinking about in the Bernabeu.
That's the game I'm thinking of more than the game at the Emirates, if I'm honest.
We could be a goal up. It could be 0-0, but the onus would be on Real Madrid to be on the front foot and have a lot of the ball, where we're going to probably play with 34% of possession. And the little possession we get has to be accurate. But because we're going to have faced Real Madrid probably having about 67% to 70% possession, that 30%, that's going to mean we're going to have a lot of time without the ball. And that's where you're going to need 10 men, 10 fit men, 10 men who are 100% fit. That is the downside of playing Saka. That is the downside. Because it's not, if it was just a one-off quarter final, I get it. But when it's like 180 minutes, you've got to cater for the second leg. You have to assume what you've seen Real Madrid, what they've done to teams, that, for me, I just don't.
Yeah.
I have concerns about playing Saka.
Kenny, I mean, that's what I said